Welcome back, Psyc250 students. We were talking about addictions, and I mentioned we were going to leave off with opioids. And here's some information about opioids. In my time, we didn't have the same kind of problem with opioids as we do now. I think a part of that is because of the ingenuity of scientists. When people find a substance and they find a way to make it cheaper and more available, get that high, or to serve its purpose, sometimes medically, then they'll do it, and more people will want it. I know my sister-in-law is a physician, and she got a lot of complaints from some of her patients because she wasn't quick to prescribe opioids, and they wanted their drugs. And she felt, no, there's some other things that you should try first before we go to that, recognizing that some of the individuals were addicted to the substance. I commend her for that. Sedatives, hypnotics, all help us. Everybody wants to calm down these days, and so you have to be careful, especially during stressful times, that we don't give in to getting hooked on these substances. So why would we get hooked on them? Because they work. They work really good. And once we find something that works, calms us down, helps us to go to sleep, mellows us out, we want more of it. And of course, our body wants more and more of it. And so we get to those images that we see in the news all the time of people who are hooked on things like methamphetamine, right? You see their pictures of before and after. Many of them are much more drastic than this. And the question comes up, do these folks even know that they've changed and transformed so drastically? The answer is complicated. In some cases, yeah, absolutely, they know. The before and after pictures, right? Just like we have before coronavirus, and then we're going to have after coronavirus, and we're going to be all fit and raring back to go, right? Maybe. I don't know. I've had my share of potato chips since I've been here, but I've had my exercise with very little excuses too. So even rode the bike a few times. Another answer to that, do they know the difference, is yeah, and they don't care because the drug outweighs everything. And so we get into situations with addicted people where we're not addicted to substances, at least the ones they are, and we ask them to choose me or the drug or the alcohol or whatever the case might be. And they choose the drug. We feel miserable, but we have to recognize that the person we're dealing with is not the person that we really know. Their brain is saturated with the substance and it's obviously clouding their judgment. So hard to say, don't take it personal when it is very personal. Now, I have to admit on something, I'm a little high right now on a stimulant. My choice of stimulant, of course, is Coke Zero or Diet Coke, getting that caffeine buzz. And I enjoy that, just like some of you enjoy coffee or tea or other beverages that have a stimulant. Especially in college, we find a lot of college students needing that extra blast. And so that's why when you come into the classroom, a lot of times I'll say, oh, so you got your drugs with you. I'm referring to your coffee. Some people get a little worried, like, what? Can he tell by my eyes? Or, did he see what was in my pockets? No, I'm not Superman. I don't have X-ray vision. I'm referring to your cup from Starbucks or your mug that's full of some beverage, probably most likely dealing with caffeine. Caffeine is the world's most abused psychoactive substance in the world, and people love their coffee. That's one thing you can have in common if you travel around the world is where is the best place to go for coffee? And people will tell you. And you may not even speak the language in the countries you're traveling to, but if you could share a cup of coffee with somebody, you're friends for sure. Now, let's talk about cocaine. Cocaine is an interesting substance because it's been with us for quite some time. And if you remember Sigmund Freud, in Sigmund Freud's time, he embraced cocaine. When at that time, you could go to the nearest pharmacy and pick some up, and it was widely distributed. We didn't know much about cocaine except for that it was a stimulant. And of course, it came in liquid form and powder form, and Freud tried it and immediately was enamored by it. One of his issues was he wanted to have more energy to write more. And so when he took cocaine, it gave him the energy. And as a matter of fact, he sent it to his friends. He gave it to his friends. He sent it to his fiancee, Martha Bournet. And he said, take this cocaine, and the next time you see me, I'll be a wild man. So he recognized the benefits of taking it himself as well as other people taking it, but then quickly realized one of his friends OD'd, who was addicted to another substance, and recognized that not everybody could take a substance and not have it overwhelm their lives. So he stopped using it. But the damage was done to his reputation. In the recent edition of the American Psychological Association's publication, The Monitor, they have an article, series of articles on the use of LSD now treating some things like PTSD and depression. And that reminds me of how we've gone full circle on hallucinogenics. This notion that substances in the 60s that many people used and abused was promoted by psychologists like Timothy Leary, who argued that these substances potentially could be a benefit. He basically was booted out of the field of psychology and labeled a radical. And sure enough, all these years later, now we're into 2020, so we've got 60 years later, now we're re-examining the possible benefits of hallucinogenics. But as they usually say, please do not try these substances at home. So what do we do to treat all these addictions? We have programs. Of course, one of the most famous programs is Alcoholics Anonymous. This has helped so many people around the world. But the data is kind of mixed. First, the data is very difficult to collect because it's an anonymous organization. So if we go on what people tell us, we have all kinds of success stories. But to get hard scientific data, the data is rather mixed. For some people, it helps remarkably. We've seen them transform right before our very eyes. And for others, not so much. A lot of abusing either additional substances, which complicates the matter, or they return back to the original substance of choice. And of course, Alcoholics Anonymous promotes abstinence, where a lot of people feel like, how about if I just reduce it? Nicotine has reduced in the amount of quantity that we use in our country. And the tobacco companies even knew in Sigmund Freud's time of its devastating effects on an individual's health. For years, they argued that it had no ill effects whatsoever. If anything, it would have had many multiple benefits to health. And of course, we know that they were lying through their teeth. It's a business. Of course, they're not going to say anything negative about their product. The United States has changed dramatically from smoking on airplanes to every restaurant you would encounter to virtually a humongous deduction in the amount of people that are smoking. What did the tobacco companies do? They kind of moved on to other countries so they can promote smoking in other countries that haven't reached our level of awareness when it comes to the health benefits or not. And they've invested in other forms. For example, vaping. And the same kind of denial of any problems whatsoever are present in the current literature when it comes to vapors. Now let's get to marijuana. Marijuana is a favorite topic. You can just ask somebody like Snoop Dogg, who's been singing about it for years, right? And we've known about marijuana since the colonial days. We've known that it has had some benefits. All the substances I've talked about really aren't good or bad. It's the person that's taking the substance and how it changes their behavior. So I don't think we need to get into this is bad and this is good. Some people can benefit tremendously from some of the substances I mentioned, and some not so much. So one of the last things I wanted to talk about is how do these things get started, right? What is the etiology of substance abuse? And that is a very difficult question to answer, extremely difficult, because we know that the brain is involved, right, in the process. We know that social constructs are involved. Who introduced you to the substances you've tried, right? Whether it be caffeine, marijuana, or any other substance. We know that substances often are used as a remedy for psychological de-stressing, so to speak. We know that substances are used in social situations, right? We know that peer pressure is a huge component of substance use and abuse, right? Think about all the times you've heard stories of somebody engaging with the so-called wrong crowd, whatever that it means, and how they turned to substances only because everybody else was. In college, we almost invariably encourage our college students to abuse substances, and I'm talking about caffeine. Give you all these papers, all this homework. Now we're saying do it all online, and which means, oh my gosh, I have to work, I have to share the computer at home, I have to find some quiet time, which means I have to do my homework at midnight or 1 or 2 in the morning. Man, I'm tired. What can I use to keep me up? Caffeine, of course, right? So, are you guys ready for the last element I want to talk about? And that is our review. And here it is. The question you already know is going to be on the test. I'll show it to you anyways. Is describe the case study of the crazy Indian woman. Describe in detail. Also, describe, in your opinion, who was so-called crazy, and I'm putting crazy in quotation marks because that's not an official term, right? And if so, if you can make an argument as to who was the crazy Indian woman, which is the title of the story, why? And if possible, what do you think is wrong with her? What kind of disorder do you think she might have? If there's a disorder for either of the women I mentioned in that case study. Now, the last question I want to mention is the second question from this chapter, and is to compare and contrast two different types of addictions, right? One dealing with gambling and the other one known as a binge drinker. So I want you to explore those topics and answer them thoroughly, both questions, all right? And of course, I'll be sending out the exam, giving you plenty of time once we're done with the chapters in this particular section. I'm wishing you all the best, health-wise and otherwise. Eat good foods, laugh with one another. This too shall pass. Take care.